The clinking of a fork on crystal pulled me from my thoughts. At the head of the table, my future brother-in-law, Mark, beamed at my sister, Lily. "To my beautiful bride-to-be," he declared. I forced a smile, shrinking into my chair. Then my brother, Jason, stood up, his grin sharp. "I'd like to make a toast, too," he announced. He turned his glass toward me. "To Emily. Let's all drink to her finding someone before menopause hits." A wave of awkward laughter washed over the table. My face burned. My mother patted my hand. "Jason, stop it. She's fine alone. Some people just aren't meant to marry." The humiliation was a physical weight. Just then, a waiter leaned in. "Miss Emily? Your fiancé is on the phone. He apologizes, but he's on his way." The table fell into a stunned, dead silence. Sitting in that silence, I felt 20 years of history crash down. I was always the practical one, the reliable one. Jason was the charismatic golden boy who could do no wrong. Lily was the delicate princess, our mother's clear favorite. I was the peacemaker, the one expected to be happy for everyone else's joy. My achievements were met with a polite nod, my failures were quietly pitted. I learned to swallow my disappointment, to smile when I wanted to cry. I built walls around my heart, brick by brick, year by year. But this dinner, this cruel joke, felt different. It chipped away at the very foundation of those walls. My mind flashed back 3 years. Ryan, my boyfriend of 5 years, had worked at the same firm. I thought we were building a future. Then I found the messages on his laptop. He was leaving me for Amanda, a woman from my own team. The betrayal was a shattering blow. I quit my job, my confidence in ruins. I moved back home for a few months, a shell of myself. My family's response wasn't comfort. Jason called it my breakdown. Mom said I needed to be more appealing. They never understood the depth of the wound. That pain became a secret I carried everywhere. My mother's favoritism was a quiet, constant force. When Lily decided on college, Mom paid her full tuition. When I chose a state school, I got loans. Lily got a down payment for her condo, I got a set of towels. "You're so independent, Emily," Mom would say. "You don't need handouts." She bought Lily's extravagant wedding dress without a second thought. For me, it was always subtle reminders that I was less. I smiled through it all, a master of disguise. But each comment, each unequal gesture, was a paper cut on my soul. I bled quietly, where no one could see. 6 months after the Ryan disaster, at my lowest, my phone rang. It was Evan Parker. We'd met years prior at a corporate retreat. He was quiet, observant, a brilliant structural engineer. He'd since become a senior partner at a major firm. He'd heard through a mutual friend about my rough patch and called to check in. There was no pity in his voice, just genuine concern. We started talking, first as acquaintances, then as friends. He saw past my broken pieces. He valued my mind, my resilience. Our relationship grew slowly, securely, away from the prying, judgmental eyes of my family. Back at the engagement dinner, the silence was broken by forced chatter. The toasts for Lily and Mark continued. Jason boasted about his recent promotion at his investment firm. Lily flashed her massive diamond ring, catching the light. I heard my mother lean toward a guest and whisper, "Lily is just so settled. It's a mother's dream. Emily, well, she's our free spirit." The words were a dagger. I gripped my wine glass so tightly I feared it would shatter. I focused on my breathing, counting each second until I could escape. I was an island in a sea of my family's satisfaction. Dessert was served, a sweet contrast to the bitter atmosphere. The same waiter returned. He addressed me clearly, ensuring the whole table heard. "Excuse me, Miss Emily. A further update. Your fiancé will arrive in approximately 5 minutes. He again extends his sincerest apologies for his tardiness." The word fiancé hung in the air. Jason burst out laughing. "Oh, this is rich. You actually hired an actor, Em? How much did that cost you? The others looked at me, a mixture of pity and curiosity. I didn't react with anger or shame. I simply offered a small, knowing smile. My calmness was more unsettling than any protest. The restaurant's main door opened, drawing every eye. Evan stood there, silhouetted against the soft lighting. He looked commanding in a tailored suit, his presence instantly altering the room's energy. The maitre d' greeted him with a familiar, respectful nod. Evan's gaze swept the room and landed on me. He walked directly to our table, his steps sure and steady. He completely ignored my stunned family, took my hand, and brought it gently to his lips. "I'm so sorry I'm late, love," he said, his voice warm and firm. The final acquisition meeting ran long. The table was utterly mute. You could feel the shift in the air. The condescending smirks vanished. Jason's mocking laughter died in his throat. Lily's fiancé, Mark, suddenly stood up, his chair scraping loudly. "Mr. Parker?" he stammered, his face pale. I had no idea. "Emily is your—" Evan shook Mark's hand firmly. "Mark." "Yes, Emily is my fiancé. I see you've been keeping interesting company." The color drained from Mark's face as he realized Evan was the new executive sponsor for his company's parent corporation. My mother and Lily exchanged a wide-eyed, panicked glance. The power had irrevocably shifted. After the main dinner concluded, I went to the restroom to collect myself. On my way back, Jason cornered me in the dimly lit hallway. "Okay, what's the real deal, Emily?" he demanded, his voice a harsh whisper. "Are you seriously engaged to Evan Parker?" "The Evan Parker?" He looked genuinely rattled. I looked him directly in the eye, my expression neutral. "You'll see soon enough, Jason," I said quietly. I didn't elaborate or gloat. I simply walked past him, leaving him standing alone in the hallway. My quiet certainty was a weapon he didn't know how to fight. The fallout began almost immediately. The next day, my phone buzzed with a message from my ex, Ryan. He'd seen a photo Lily posted from the dinner, with Evan clearly in the background. "So you moved on?" "He looks serious," he wrote. I felt a flicker of old pain, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of power. I didn't reply. My silence was my answer. Meanwhile, my family's group chat, usually silent for me, was flooded with messages. "We need to catch up," from Lily. That was quite a surprise, from my mother. Their curiosity was a form of validation I had never received before. 2 days later, my mother called. "Darling, we're so thrilled for you," she began, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Evan seems like a wonderful man. Very established." Then came the real message. "Just be careful, Emily. Don't rush things. You know how you can be. Don't scare him away like you did with Ryan." The words were a familiar poison, designed to make me feel insecure and unworthy. But this time, they didn't stick. I finally understood her words were about her own fears, not my worth. I simply said, "I have to go, Mom," and hung up, feeling lighter. A week later, Evan took me to a high-profile corporate gala. I felt elegant and confident on his arm. We saw Mark there, who nervously avoided us most of the night. Later, while getting my coat, I overheard Mark on a balcony, his voice stressed. "The ledgers are a mess. If the new ownership does a deep audit before the quarter ends, we're finished. They'll see the missing funds." He was talking about hiding company debts. I didn't interrupt. I just stored the information away, a key turning in a lock I didn't yet know I possessed. I had a choice. I could have told Evan what I'd overheard immediately, using it as a weapon. But I didn't. I chose patience. I watched and waited, understanding that knowledge was power, and timing was everything. This was no longer about a petty family squabble. It was about truth and consequences. For the first time in my life, I felt completely in control of the narrative. I wasn't reacting to my family's drama. I was calmly, quietly, directing the flow of events from a place of unshakable strength. Unable to attack Evan, my family turned their fire on me. Jason started telling relatives that Evan was controlling and that I was isolating myself. My mother lamented that I was changing and becoming too focused on status. They tried to paint my happiness as a character flaw. I heard the whispers, but they no longer hurt me. I simply smiled and continued planning. I decided to host my own dinner party. I sent out invitations for a small, special family celebration. I chose the same restaurant. I requested the same table. I was reclaiming my ground. The night of my dinner arrived. My family filed in, their moods a mix of reluctance and morbid curiosity. They took their seats at the very same table where Jason had mocked me. The same waiter, whose name I now knew was Antonio, greeted me with a warm, knowing smile. Jason tried to break the tension with a weak joke. Lily giggled nervously, her eyes darting between Evan and me. My mother sat stiffly, her smile tight and forced. They were all waiting for my special announcement, expecting something small, perhaps a promotion or a vacation plan. The air was thick with anticipation. We made stilted conversation through the first course. Jason made another joke that fell flat. Lily kept fiddling with her necklace. My mother's eyes never left me, searching for a crack in my calm exterior. Evan was a steady, reassuring presence beside me. When the main plates were cleared, I gently tapped my knife against my water glass. The sharp ping silenced the table. Everyone looked at me. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steady. "I've been keeping something from you all, and it's time you knew." I stood up, taking Evan's hand. "As some of you might have guessed, Evan and I are engaged. Officially." There was a round of stiff, forced congratulations. I let them hang there for a moment before continuing. "But before we toast, Evan has an announcement of his own regarding his work." Evan stood, his demeanor all business. "As of Friday," he said, looking directly at Mark, "my firm has completed the acquisition. I now hold controlling shares in Stratton Corporation, Mark. I'll be leading the restructuring." Lily's face went sheet white. Mark looked like he might be sick. Mark began to stammer, "Mr. Parker, I can explain the quarterly reports." Evan cut him off, his voice cold and precise. "I've already reviewed the internal ledgers. You've been embezzling company funds for months, funneling them into a shell account. The forensic audit is already underway." The table erupted. Lily started sobbing into her hands. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her chest. She turned to me, her eyes wide with horror. "Emily? What is this? What have you done?" The room was in chaos, the perfect facade of our family shattered. I looked at my mother, my expression serene amidst the storm. "You always told me I brought the mood down, Mother. Maybe I was just surrounded by the wrong people." Jason, trying to deflect, jumped to Mark's defense. "This is insane. You can't just accuse him." Evan turned his gaze to Jason. "And while we're on the topic of integrity, Jason, your firm's consulting fees from Stratton Corp. The ones you never declared? That's illegal kickback. The SEC will be very interested." Jason's bluster evaporated. Both of the family's golden men were exposed as frauds in a single, devastating blow. The restaurant manager and a security guard appeared. Mark was quietly but firmly escorted out, Lily weeping behind him. Jason shot me a look of pure hatred before storming out, slamming the door. My mother remained seated, trembling, staring at the ruins of her perfect family image. You planned this," she whispered, her voice broken. I looked at her, feeling a pang of pity. "No, Mother," I replied softly. "I didn't plan for them to be corrupt. I just prepared for you not to believe me when I revealed it." The scandal broke in the business section of the local paper within days. Stratton Corp exec indicted for embezzlement. A follow-up article mentioned Jason's firm was under investigation for financial misconduct. Jason was fired. Lily's engagement was publicly called off. My mother became a recluse, avoiding her friends out of shame. I did not give interviews or gloat. I focused on my own life, my work, and my relationship with Evan. The chaos I had left behind was not my creation, I had merely stopped hiding it. A week after the news broke, my mother showed up at my apartment. Her eyes were red-rimmed. "I was wrong," she said, her voice raw. "About everything. About you. I spent my life propping up the wrong children. You were always the strong one. The one who didn't need propping up. I didn't see it." I let her speak. I saw her regret was genuine. "I forgive you, Mom," I said. "But things have to be different. Love shouldn't feel like a competition where I always lose." She nodded, finally understanding. Evan took me to a quiet beach at sunset, far from restaurants and family drama. There was no audience, no performance. He got down on one knee in the sand, holding out a simple, elegant ring. "Emily," he said, his eyes full of love and respect. "Will you marry me? For us, and no one else." This was the real proposal, stripped of all pretense and strategy. It was a question between two equals who had found peace in each other. "Yes," I said, my heart full. "On my terms. On our terms." Months later, we were married in a small, beautiful ceremony. Jason and Lily attended, humbled and quiet. They had both started therapy, trying to untangle themselves from our family's toxic dynamics. When the officiant said the traditional line, "If anyone here present can show just cause why these two should not be joined together, let them speak now," Jason actually stood up. Everyone froze. He looked at me, then at Evan, and his eyes filled with tears. He slowly sat back down. I offered him a small, gentle smile from across the aisle. I was finally, completely free. They said I'd die single. Turns out, I was just waiting to meet myself first.